What's up, guys? It's Josh back with SobrietyWoD. This week 27, I never really thought about it before, but 26 I guess was like half a year. So 6 months of stuff, that's pretty good. I remember when I couldn't do anything consistent for like 6 days. So today we're talking, I want to change up the background a little bit. So we're hanging out with my chickens. What are their names again?
Well,
No, just what are their names again?
the only one I have named is Versace,
What
the
were
black
their
one.
names?
Versace, Veronica, Vivian, Viola, and Vendetta.
Yeah, I don't know where
And
it
they all
came from.
died.
Those died, but these are the new ones. So anyway, you know, the idea of today is talking about keeping it simple, and it's one of those AA slogans. But you've probably heard it outside of AA too. It's like keep it simple, KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. And the idea behind that is about bringing things, always bringing them back to just the fundamentals. And I was thinking about, I think about this a lot, but we're complex organisms. We are complex biologically. We're made up. We consist of these millions and billions of cells that make up tissues, that make up organs, that perform functions that keep us alive. That shit is like outrageously complex. And then if you get into like neurologically, like the amount of bundles of neurons in our nervous system and all the circuitry that goes on within us, it's like impossible to even comprehend. And we're super complex. And then you tie in our emotional states, or our relationships with others, our relationships with the universe, like our thoughts and our feelings and all that stuff is just so outrageously complex. And it's easy to get caught up in all that. If you look at the universe itself and you get into things like chemistry and what things are made up of, how things react when they're mixed, which is a good metaphor of really our interpersonal relationships and stuff too. But also looking at the cosmos, looking at the universe, looking at physics and the laws of reality and how all that stuff interrelates. It really is this massively complex system. If you get into particle physics, where you're breaking down elements, where you're breaking things down into their constituent parts, and you have protons and electrons and neutrons, and now we're smashing protons, and we're finding out that protons are made of these hundreds of like seemingly never-ending particles, quarks and gluons and muons and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just, not delving really far into it, but just realizing like the overwhelming complexity of everything. And then we hear this thing about keeping it simple. It's like, how do we keep it simple if everything's so complex? Well, I follow a program, a 12-step program that keeps it simple. And what they mean when they're talking about keeping it simple is just keeping things to their fundamentals. And so some of the fundamentals that I follow is get a sponsor, work the steps, go to meetings. And it's like, but what about this? Or what about that situation? Or what about this feeling that I have? Or what about this temptation? Or what about... It's like we think we need to know everything about everything. We think we need a solution for every specific problem. And somehow the simplicity of going to meetings, meeting with a sponsor, and working these steps, it seems like it fixes all this stuff without ever addressing it. And it's pretty baffling, but it's one of those things that doesn't make sense unless you do it. You just have to try it. And so this idea of keeping it simple is something that keeps me sober, right? I can get caught up in my life. I can get caught up in all these questions I have and all these fears that I have and all this stuff. But if I'm doing those things, I have a tendency to be okay. And I look at pretty much every time in my life, or in my sobriety really, that I have been struggling, one of those things I'm not tending to, right? Not like I should be. And then when I start tending to them again, it's like problems that I thought were literally unsolvable seem to just melt away. Most of us have had that experience with our drug of choice, whatever our addiction was. It's like, if I was constantly trying to solve that, which I was doing for a long time, I was getting nowhere. And now I've experienced this thing where it seems to just have been removed from me, where it just seems to not exist anymore. So there's something to this simplicity thing. There's something to just focusing on these fundamentals. The discussion portion today, you guys hang out, have a good time, and talk about if you have that tendency to overcomplicate things. We're going to tie it in a minute. But if you're one of those people that tends to get caught up in the details and the nuances of every situation and every problem and everything that's going on around you, rather than just keeping it tied into simplicity. And so if you are one that overcomplicates things, what kind of things happen that reminds you or open your eyes to what's going on and help you bring it back to simplicity? So y'all hang out, talk about that, and then we'll be right back with the CrossFit and workout portion.